do is put your mind to it and believe it. I mean, look at me. I'm a free man. I was illiterate till I was 28 years old. Now I have my book out. I got a documentary. I'm working on a couple miniseries. I had a TV show on TV last year. I mean, if I ain't proof, there is no proof.
Which is good, but do you think it's unfair for you to be kind of the poster child, so to speak, in the crack era? Like, when people reference that, they mention your name when obviously you weren't the only one, but it's like it's kind of like a stereotype. How do you feel about that?
I don't mind though, because it should be Ronald Reagan should be. He should be the poster child because he sold more cocaine than anybody else. But I don't mind, and like you said, I've learned how to use it to my advantage to work it, and that's what I'm going to continue to try to do to not only better for me, but better for my people.
Now, what's your opinion on with Obama releasing the inmates and different things? Do you think
he should have did more? Obama, you should do more. You should release more people. Release 40,000 guys that's been in there too long. Do that, man.
For the nonviolent
drug offenses, man. Come on. If they doing treatment now for the opiate community, let those guys out. Some of those guys been in 20, 30 years. Let them out.
Let's say 100 years from now, how do you think teenagers and children, when they learn about the crack era, how do you think they'll perceive it as opposed to how we perceived it coming up into it?
I mean, it'll probably be pretty much the way we perceive alcohol now. It was part of prohibition. It was a part of ignorance on a lot of fronts, but at the end of the day, it's just something that we went through. I don't think that cocaine defines who I am. It was just something that I did for a period of time. I only sold cocaine for 8 years, and I'm 56 years old now. Yeah, my mom on the documentary, when my mom talked about how I used to round up all the kids in the neighborhood, and we would do car washes in front of her house. So, I always been like that. Cut grass, hustle cans, hustle bottles. I understood at a very young age that in America money was important.
I noticed yesterday you talked about the Richest Man in Babylon. I read that book and Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, yeah, those are my favorite books. I was fortunate that somebody had turned me on to those, and I'll give those books so much credit to my success right now. Not to my first success because I never read them, but what I did notice when I read those books is that I was practicing some of those principles when I did my drug dealing. Well, say for instance, in The Richest Man in Babylon, they talk about saving 10% of your money is yours to keep. Well, what I do, when I practiced the drug business, I was basically saving all the money that I made. I didn't spend any money. I spent very little money. And one of the reasons, not that I came up with the idea that I should do that, but my mom was a really religious person, and she was really strict, and I was still living with my mom at 19 years old, and she thought if you sold drugs, you was the devil. My mom was really, really religious, so she felt I was doing the devil's work, so I hid it from her, and the way I had to hide it from her is that I couldn't buy anything. I couldn't come with new shoes, because she'd be wanting to know, where you get those from? And she was observant, so that made me save my money, and what that did is made me reinvest my money back into the drug business that I later on learned that it's called compound interest. Meaning that you take the money that you make, then you get paid interest off of that money, and you also get paid interest off the money that you had before that, and it just keeps compounding and compounding and compounding, so your interest constantly grows. I learned that from The Richest Man in Babylon. As a Man Think, I learned that your mind is a garden. It can be taken care of, or it can be let to grow wild and have wild weeds growing in meanings, crazy thoughts and thoughts of doing crazy things. Or you can cultivate it and plant in it the seeds that you want. Seeds of wealth and health and a better life for not only yourself but your loved ones. So I learned that from that one. Think and Grow Rich, I learned the mastermind group, that it's good to take and put people with you who have skills that you don't have. So I just took a little bit. That's just a couple little things from each one of them that I learned. And also from The Richest Man in Babylon. My favorite story in there is The Luckiest Man in Babylon. And this guy was a slave, but he was able to work his way from being a slave to being the richest man in Babylon. And so rich that even the king came to him in times of famine for assistance.
Was it difficult applying them, or was you like, man, this stuff don't work? You know, especially if you come from a religious background, so is it hard to be like,
in prison it's a little harder, you know, because your resources is not as well, but I was able to start making progress almost immediately. I mean, the first thing I started doing was I started my own little business in jail, which was cleaning sales. I went from cleaning sales to started a store, you know, where I sold all the chips and the candy bars and things like that. And then I went from that to where at some months I made $800 in 1 month, you know, inside of the prison, which is more than what the guys who were working Unicorn was making. Well, I started reaching out to my people on the streets, letting them know that I wasn't dead. I started reaching out to news people, entertainers, just anybody that I could, just befriending people, you know, building up my mastermind group and my network, to the point that when I got out of prison, I probably had 1,000 people that I had phone numbers and addresses. And I mean, some weeks I would get 70 letters, you know, in the jailhouse. I had lost my outside support. It's funny about the way the drug business worked, that when you're in the drug business, when you get arrested, most of the people that you associated with are also drug dealers. So when the feds come in, they tend to flee from you. So with me, you know, I only had a couple people that stood by me, my mom, my brother, and a couple of my kids. You know, they were so young though but they still, you know, would write me little letters once in a while. But what I did is I sat down and I figured out that in order for people to want to associate with me while I was in prison, is that I had to create a value for myself. So what I did is I sat down and I started creating value, and reading those books helped me create value. I used to do credit repair while I was in prison. You know, you could send me your credit report and I would help you clean your credit up. You know, that was another one of my hustles while I was in jail. My problem that I had while I was in jail was the institution didn't like that I would conduct business. You know, you're not allowed to conduct business while you're in prison. So I got in trouble a lot for conducting business inside the prison. But yeah, definitely having outside support definitely is something that will keep you going. But I'm a self-motivator. You know, I don't need outside things to motivate me. I'm self-motivated. I motivate myself from inside and from my personal desires of what it is that I want to do. You know, if I get knocked down, I get back up. You know, I read a book one time and it said that the champ is still the champ as long as he gets up off the canvas. You know, he hasn't lost as long as he gets up. Once you lay on the floor and you say it's over, then that's when it's over. You know, but as long as you keep getting up and you keep swinging and you keep fighting, you still the champ. It's bad.
Yeah, and
well, not even just Ohio, all over the country. It started with those opiate pills that they were giving people in the hospitals, and people. But what's amazing is the way that they're dealing with it now, because these are white kids. Now it's a medical issue and not a criminal issue.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
See, when we sold crack, it was a criminal issue. They was throwing you in jail for it. But now, since it's white kids, they're giving them treatment. And I hope it's not just because they're white kids. I hope that it's because they got wiser and more sensible. And that's the reason that they're treating it like this, and the reason that they didn't treat us the same way. But yeah, I'm very aware of it, and I have a few friends that work in that field of treating heroin addicts. Absolutely. If everybody eat, everybody happy. Everybody got new cars, everybody living in a nice house. I mean, why should anybody go out and rob anybody. People who, one of the things they say, money is the root of all evil. But I said, nobody with a pocket full of money is out hitting people in the head, taking their purse. It's the people who don't have money that are doing the crime to get money. So the lack of money is the root of all evil. When you don't have money is when a person is dangerous. So I believe that if we share the wealth, and there's plenty of wealth in this country to be shared, it's just amazing that the people with the majority of the wealth are not willing to share it. They just want to take it and use it all for themselves.
Anybody that's in the game now, what advice would you tell them?
Pick up this book, man. Read this book. This book definitely gonna help you get out, and while you're in, to be safe.